Because of why I search the deep through endless nights, no time to sleep. The call inside I can't deny. I'll find the light because of why.
All right, so when you think about Europe's economic powerhouses, who comes to mind? Germany, maybe? Switzerland? Probably not a tiny 2 million person nation tucked away in the Alps. But today, we're diving into the surprisingly complex story of Slovenia's wealth.
Yeah, on paper, it's consistently ranked as the wealthiest post-socialist country. But the story of how it got there, well, that's way more complicated and, honestly, way more fascinating than just a simple success story. So, first things first, let's look at the popular view of Slovenia. You know, the one you see on the postcards and in the headlines. It's a picture of undeniable prosperity.
And look, this isn't just some opinion. By pretty much every measure, since it broke away from Yugoslavia, Slovenia has consistently been the top economic dog among all the post-socialist states.
And the reasons people usually give, they make a lot of sense. I mean, it's got a perfect location, right at the crossroads of Europe, a super well-educated population, it got all the benefits of joining the EU, and it has this really nicely diversified economy that isn't just betting on one thing.
And this success is totally tangible. We're talking about huge global brands, Kirka in pharmaceuticals, Gorenje in home appliances, and hey, if you've ever been skiing, you've almost definitely heard of Elon. The success is real, but, and this is a big but, it's only half the story. Okay, so after independence back in the early 90s, Slovenia, just like all the other post-socialist countries, was standing at a huge fork in the road. It had to figure out how to build a brand new market economy, and that choice is absolutely crucial to our story. Basically, there were two playbooks on the table. On one side, you had what they called shock therapy. This is the path countries like Poland chose. It was all about being fast, disruptive, just ripping the Band-Aid off with super quick privatization. But then there was the other option, gradualism, a much more cautious, slow, and steady kind of approach.
And Slovenia, it went all in on gradualism. The whole idea was to avoid the chaos and the potential social meltdown of a big bang reform. They wanted to take their time, keep the government involved, and really manage the transition carefully. Seemed like the safer, smarter bet, right? But was it?
And this is where the story gets really interesting. Because that safe, cautious path, it came with a very, very high and often totally hidden price tag. This quote right here, it just nails the problem. By slowing everything down, Slovenia's gradual approach basically gave the old guard, the former communist elites, all the time they needed to regroup. They just kind of morphed into this new, powerful network that effectively took control of the economy for themselves.
And you can see the results right here in the data. By 2011, state-owned companies were just a massive part of the economy. Think about this. They employed 1 out of every 8 people in the corporate world, they were generating a sixth of all economic value, and their collective debt was equal to a mind-blowing 30% of the entire country's GDP. The state's hand wasn't just on the scale, it practically was the scale.
So, what was the result? Well, a lot of inefficiency. Just look at these numbers from 2011 for some of the major state-controlled firms. I mean, these are not small losses. The Sava Group lost 157 million euros in a single year. These companies, propped up by the state, were just bleeding money. And here's the real kicker. This whole insider model, which was all about keeping companies in Slovenian hands, it totally scared away foreign investment. By 2011, foreign direct investment as a percentage of GDP was less than 38% in Slovenia. Now compare that to the Czech Republic at 68%, or Estonia at a whopping 85%. Slovenia was seriously missing out. Okay, so this brings us to the central puzzle, right? If the system was so inefficient and basically captured by insiders, how on earth did Slovenia still end up being so rich? The answer, it's both simple and incredibly powerful. Slovenia's success story has way less to do with what happened after 1991 and almost everything to do with where it started from. To really put this in perspective, within Yugoslavia, Slovenia was just in a completely different league.
By the late 1980s, its GDP per person was a staggering 8 times higher than in Kosovo, which was the poorest region. So it entered independence as the most industrialized and developed part of the country, and not by a little, but by a huge margin.
And this becomes crystal clear when we compare Slovenia to Slovakia, a country that went for shock therapy. Back in 1991, Slovenia's productivity was way ahead. But check this out. Over the next 20 years, Slovakia's aggressive reforms helped it not only catch up, but to actually surpass Slovenia in labor productivity. How about that? And really, this is the main takeaway. Slovenia's gradualism, it prevented a total economic collapse and provided a really high floor, a comfortable starting point. But by protecting the status quo, it might have also put a cap on the country's ultimate potential for growth.
So that brings us to today. Because the decisions made 30 years ago are now shaping the major challenges Slovenia is facing for its future.
And the country is staring down some pretty serious long-term hurdles. We're talking a rapidly aging population, one of the lowest fertility rates on the planet, and a labor market that's still seen as really rigid. What all this means is that boosting productivity isn't just some nice goal, it's an absolute necessity.
And here's a number that just shows you the scale of the problem. By 2050, for every 10 working-age people, there will be nearly 56 people aged 65 or over. Just think about the pressure that puts on public finances, on pensions, on healthcare. It's basically a demographic time bomb. So we're left with this fascinating puzzle. Is Slovenia a clever success story that managed to preserve its stability? Or is it a cautionary tale of a country that succeeded despite its flawed model, a model whose bill is only now coming due? You know, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. But I'm really curious to hear what you think. Is this a model to follow, or is it more of a warning? Let me know in the comments below. I'd really love to see what you guys think. And hey, if you enjoyed digging into this story with us, please think about hitting that like button and subscribing. It really helps us make more deep dives just like this one. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.